Hey there, thanks for watching. In this video, I'm going to be doing a review of my 5-year plan that I made in 2017. So it ran through 2017 to 2022. And I'm going to be reviewing the 5 things that were on that 5-year plan and letting you know whether I was successful or not, how many, if any, of those 5 things did I accomplish. And I'll also be sharing a little bit about my philosophy on 5-year plans, 10-year plans, and planning in general. So if you're interested in hearing more about that, then just keep watching. So I've had friends that have been really resistant to the idea of making a 5-year plan, and I can totally see why. It's really difficult to be able to plan or anticipate what's going to happen in the next 5 years. And I can really understand the reluctance to make any sort of plans because that kind of acknowledges that you have these desires and you want these things to happen. So I can completely understand that. That said, I've also kind of heard this quote, and it's attributed to Bill Gates, but I think that it just kind of stands true. And that's that people tend to overestimate what they can accomplish in a year, but underestimate what they can accomplish in 5 years or 10 years. And I think that's really true too. Because especially if you're someone that likes setting New Year's resolutions or likes the feeling of a clean slate, I personally love the feeling of like a Monday when the week is fresh and clean and you can kind of start over again. I love the feeling of a fresh start. That said, it's challenging to kind of keep that momentum going throughout a longer period of time, like 2, 3, 5, 7, or 10 years. So that's why for me, I feel like setting a 5-year plan was really important. So that leads me to my 5-year plan that I laid out in March of 2017. The reason why I'm taking a look at this now is because that 5-year plan has expired. So if I went from 5 years exactly of the day that I made that plan, the date would be Thursday, March 10th, 2022, which has already passed. But since this is 2022 and this is the last year of that 5-year plan, I figured this was a great time to review it for myself. I also made 2 videos regarding this 5-year plan, and I thought it was kind of interesting to revisit them. I will try to link a card to the first video here. And you can already see that I'm a little bit, I look different. I feel different. I talk different in that 2017 video. And I personally, just from the way that I look and sound and feel, I'm happy with the way that I've grown over the last 5 years. So that is a good thing just to start. I look different, which is something that I noticed and appreciated. So for some context on where I was, I guess, mentally and emotionally when I made that video and that plan in 2017. I was single, living in my mom's house in Jersey, and I would say that for the past 8-ish years, I had been locked in a very, very firm and strict way of how I think things should have happened or should happen for me. I was very, I would say, not guarded, but I was just very, very set in the way that I wanted things to turn out. And that's kind of always been my personality, is that I have very definite ideas about how I think things should happen. And they almost never happen the way that I think they should, but very often they happen even better. So that's just a big lesson for me overall, personally, in terms of control and releasing control of things that I can't control, which is namely anything other than myself. So I think that in 2017, I was still learning that lesson, and I am still today learning that lesson and growing continually in the idea that I can control nothing but myself. And it's really hard because, again, it's something that I keep relearning all the time. But I think, again, in 2017, I was very locked in that way that I think that things should have been. I was part of a faith community that I took and used kind of for my own purposes. So I am still 100% a person of faith. I just don't express it in the way that I did then, which is fine. And that was, again, my own sort of growth and learning through that. So that's where I was in 2017. Fast forward to where I am today in 2022, and I just thinking about it, I kind of take a deep breath because I feel like I am so less forced in my thinking and in the way that I feel like things should be. I still struggle with this. I still struggle with feeling like things aren't moving fast enough or in the right direction, or that people aren't doing what I want them to do, which is funny to me. And it's because it's something I have to continually relearn. But I think at this point, I'm a lot more open to different possibilities, and I'm able to hold a little bit looser today than I was back in 2017. And so 2022 me is married, pregnant, and living with my husband in Manhattan. So I think that over the past 5 years, that's been the biggest change. And that alone is something that I was really working and growing toward, to be able to be in a relationship that I wanted to be in, to be the type of person that I would want to be in a relationship with, and to be open and willing enough to accept myself, number one, and number two, the type of person that I would want to be in a relationship with. I think that was my biggest overall growth over these past 5 years. So moving into the actual 5 things that I had on my plan from 2017 to 2022. So the 5 things that were on my 5-year plan: number 1, I wanted to buy a house and be independent. Number 2, I wanted to help my mom sell or downsize her house. Number 3 was to be and stay debt-free. Number 4 was location independent work, so I wanted to be able to work from anywhere. And number 5 was to be married and start a family. So was I successful in doing those 5 things? So thing number 1, buying a house. I have still not bought a house. That is not something that I've accomplished in the last 5 years. Number 2, did I help my mom sell or downsize her house? I did not, because it's not my house and it's not my decision to make. And that's something that I can support her with, but it's not ultimately up to me what she decides to do. Number 3, and this was a big one, was I successful in being or staying debt-free? No. And this is really tough, because up until the beginning of this year, that would have been a yes. But as this year went on, and I've talked about this a little bit in other videos, I was not successful in that goal. So that's just how that happened. Number 4, location independent work. Was I successful in that? And yes, I was. Yes, I was successful in achieving that. That also had nothing to do with me. My company went remote in 2020 during the pandemic, and we are currently still remote. Again, nothing to do with me, but it happened and I was there for it. So I'm taking that as a success. And then number 5, get married and start a family. It's exactly what happened. And I am really happy that it happened that way. So yes, that was successful. So out of the 5 things I had on my 5-year plan, I accomplished 2 of them. And if you had asked me at the beginning which 2 are the most important, I would probably have said those 2, and that's exactly what happened. So in the recap, was it worth it, and what did I learn? Absolutely, it was worth setting a 5-year plan. It was 100% worth making out a 5-year plan, and I found it very empowering to set these goals and say, yes, these are 5 things that I want in my life in the next 5 years, and I'm willing to do the work that it takes to make them come true. And I can tell you it's a lot harder to know that this time span is going to be 5 years as opposed to just 1 year. But what that allows you to do is kind of break it down into smaller chunks, break your big goals down into smaller chunks. And that's something that I am still learning and continue to learn, but I really appreciate, because just because you have one bad day doesn't mean that you've failed entirely. It just means you had one bad day, and that the successes of each day kind of build on each other. So that's probably the biggest thing that I've learned, is that small incremental action brings huge results. I think of James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, and that's 100% the biggest skill you need if you're going to accomplish your big 5-year goals. So that's probably the biggest thing I've learned, is incremental progress and the power of incremental progress. So that's what I learned from doing my 5-year plan, 5 goals in 5 years, and what's coming up next for the future. So I am working on setting out a 5-year plan. I've actually got a couple rough drafts, and I'm still in the process of working that out, because I want to be very intentional and realistic about what's possible in the next 5 to 7 years, as well as what I can reach for within that time frame, what I know about myself, what I've learned about myself, and what I want to require from myself going forward in this new phase of life. So that's something that I'm still processing, but more to come on that. So hopefully I will have an updated 5-year plan goal from 2023 to 2028. So I'm excited to set that, and I hope that you will watch that when it comes out too. So thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. Let me know if you have done a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, and if you have, what success you've seen, or if you're on track to meet some of those goals. I'd love to hear more about your plans. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I hope you'll keep watching. Bye.